Hi everyone, it's a privilege to be here with you today and part of this flagship experience. We'd be delighted towards the end of the session to get some of your feedback and any questions, as this is really some very fresh content for us. So welcome to our talk. This is rocket powered, speed, control and testing in production. As such, we'll be explaining how Experian landed a rover on Mars. I think that's what we did, isn't it, Will?
I mean, it's very similar. Very similar, yeah.
Okay, good. Well, hang on. Before we get to that, let's have some introductions. Who are we, and what do we do? So I'm James. Very much a developer at heart that slipped down the slippery slope to director, and now lead a brilliant product development team here at Experian Consumer Services in the UK. Our apps provide access to credit scores and help consumers make better financial decisions and get access to cheaper credit. We love what we do, and as we will shortly explain, feature flagging has become a critical enabler for controlling the risk inherent with running sensitive and regulated products. I've been at Experian for about 7 years, and it's been quite a ride. As the now self-titled grandfather of feature flagging, my flagging journey started with meeting Adil, co-founder of Split, in the giant expo halls of reInvent in Las Vegas back in December 2016. But before I explain how that turned out, please let me introduce you to my co-speaker, Will.
Hey, my name is Will Soper. I'm head of software engineering in ECS, just like James. I manage engineering teams that look after both web and native mobile platforms, and I've been here about 2 years. But more relevant to this conversation is that I was the delivery lead for Experian Boost, and I'm going to tell you a lot more about that in just a minute.
Thanks, Will. Great to have you with us today. So let me take you back to 2016. At the time, I was an architect with Experian, obviously delighted to be in Las Vegas and learning about all the bewildering array of cloudy goodness on offer from AWS. But as I was there, I was really looking for something more specific than elastic cloud compute, streaming services, and API gateways. You see, at the time, we were running a 12-year-old platform, a big .NET N-tier monolith. We mostly used waterfall. We had scattered teams across several time zones and operating with very different leadership and standards. There were very few unit tests and a serious lack of automation in our testing. We had siloed functions, dev, QA, build, separate operations, change management, a big PMO function, BI, MI, all doing as their individual VPs told them. Lots of bureaucracy and plenty of red tape. We were pretty swamped in fear and risk, and our poor customers suffered from a very static and staid experience. But there was light. It came in the form of CapEx, expertly secured by our crazy and quite lovable CTO. And we let the transformation begin. We set about stripping away at our culture, introducing amazing new cloud tech, hacking away at the operating model, and setting sail on a journey of agile discovery. I use this image of a car wash. I hope that translates to most of you, but this is what we needed. Our organization was institutionalized to an old and tired way of working. And for the most part, whilst our products worked and made us a lot of money, if we kept working that way, we would never have taken the benefit from cloud tech or agile methods. So we needed a car wash. We needed waterfall, risk-averse memories erasing, and new modern habits forming. So along came Split. And as we introduced microservices, decoupled apps, very much a cloud-native platform with self-organized, long-running teams, high-performance agility, and very much a growth mindset, we started to turn things around. Split became my culture hack. It took me months with lots of patience from the team at Split to get through the red tape. We then set about evangelizing the messy divorce of deployment and customer release with developers, product owners, change managers, executives who largely didn't care, and risk managers. Slowly but surely, it worked. Now, I regularly hear our product owners in approval boards suggesting we dial up the split to 50% and hopefully higher, or dial down to review potential issues. The result has been a dramatic increase in deployments, and following a bumpy ride through our full migration to the cloud, a dramatic decrease in incidents. We sit here today with 6 months solid product uptime, which for us is remarkable, and our 10 million customers are certainly grateful, especially now we've ventured into space travel.
Thanks, James. Really great intro into how we embedded Split into our engineering culture. So I'm here to tell you about how we took that practice to the next level and how we launched a major new product in the UK. That product is called Experian Boost. But before I tell you about that, it probably helps to rewind a little bit and tell you about what this product is for. So Boost was first launched in North America several years ago, where the banking system is fundamentally different to that in the UK. Now, that is a topic all on its own, perhaps for a different day and maybe even for a different audience. But just trust me when I say we couldn't clone that platform here in the UK. And I have had to say that many times. Experian is a credit bureau, as James briefly mentioned earlier, and it is our job, among others, to power lending decisions with data. Historically, that data has been in the form of data sharing agreements with lenders. So as a practical example, a register of applications and or repayments on credit agreements helps lenders be well informed when they're making lending decisions. Experian Boost is different. Experian Boost is all about allowing consumers to contribute their own data. For lenders, it's interesting because that's data that was never available before. And for consumers, that's interesting because it might mean they're able to get access to cheaper credit. Well, it's that two-sided market with both lenders and consumers interested in this product that makes it especially appealing as a product proposition, but brings with it significant challenges. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. But before I do, it's worth you knowing that the data which we're allowing consumers to share is banking transaction data, and that's shared through a legal and technological framework called Open Banking, or PSD2, if you're familiar with that terminology. So the challenges that we needed to overcome then, 2 of which I'm going to talk to you about. The first one was all about being first to market. Now, who doesn't want to be first to market? Everybody wants to be first to market. It feels great to be first to market, right? But this is slightly different than that. We wanted to be first to market because we wanted to get significant adoption, both from lenders and from customers, because without a significant customer panel, there's nothing interesting for lenders to look at. There's no new data for them to decide whether this is useful for making risk decisions. But without lenders on the panel offering cheaper credit, there's very little reason for consumers to share their data. So we wanted to keep a lid on this before we were launched. We wanted to launch big. We wanted to be first. And so we needed to be fast. Challenge 2 was that we wanted to be in the market with a high quality product which is ready to meet that scaling demand from day one. Now, again, who doesn't want a high quality product? How many people in a presentation like this would say, oh yeah, we were shooting for a low quality product? But again, this isn't quite that. This is all about that open banking framework that this is based on. So it's heavily regulated. There are very stringent measures on availability, and there's monitoring of consumer outcomes. And the FCA, who regulate this in the UK, take it very seriously. So really, to get that adoption, we needed pretty much a big bang launch, which nobody wants, so that we could get that scale. And to get that scale, to get that big bang launch, we had a major ad campaign planned across multiple channels, including Facebook, Google, YouTube, print media, radio, influencers, and television. And television was one interesting example for you. The slots that we were looking for, the primetime slots, are seen by millions of consumers, which is very exciting, but they're also booked months in advance. So not only did we need a big bang launch, but we needed to commit to that date some way out. Spoiler, we did it. You probably knew that already though, right? We got the thing live on time. We hit the deadlines, and it was seen by millions of people in the first few days after launch. This isn't a deep dive into how we managed risk during a crisis. We didn't need to do that. This is all about how we used controls to make sure that liftoff went smoothly. How did we do it? That's what I'm here to tell you. I'm going to walk you through these three key boxes of how we use these different controls. But before I do that, you should first know that all of these practices that we're about to use were built on a very solid foundation of both manual and automated formal testing processes. We're cloud native, as James mentioned already. We've got significant experience with CI and CD tooling, and we have a strong DevOps culture embedded already. So our presentation title included, and I smiled at the start, our presentation title included the somewhat provocative line about testing in production, which, to be clear, raised eyebrows even within Experian. But I want to be clear that this is all about adding control and not removing it. We didn't just shoot straight to production with these controls and bypass everything else. So with that said, let's talk through them. So in this first box, which I've called closed group testing, the first control point that we hit was staff testing. This is where we took individual staff members, we put them into an allow list, and then magically on the production website, Experian Boost appeared for them. This is exciting because this is the first time that we're able to see production banking data flowing through our system. It's the first time that we can prove really that the data which we expected to see from banks in production looked the way that we thought it would. Now, of course, banks have their test environments, we have ours, and all of that stuff was still there, but most of you will probably feel the same. Nothing's quite the same as production. So we were quite excited about that. The second control point in this same box was to put consumers who were under a non-disclosure agreement to help us keep the lid on what we were trying to bring to market into those same allow lists. They were under a controlled trial. We would invite them to participate in a controlled environment, and we would get their feedback on how the product resonated with them, how they found it to use, and we were able to find any confusing points as they walked through the journey. This was really valuable, and it was the first chance we could get real feedback from real customers. And I think more than 80% of them at this time said that they were willing to stay connected to Boost even after the trial. So that was really positive, but we did find areas that we wanted to improve. So that's box one. The second box, where we started then to do some small scale on-site testing. So we would use a split on our homepage and invite somewhere between 1 and 10% of our customers to use Boost. Now, this is where I started to get really, really excited, because this type of testing is simply not possible using classical testing methodologies. So in this scenario, we were inviting customers to use Boost with no pre-warning. They hadn't been invited into a testing session. They'd not been told that they needed their banking credentials. They had no idea what to expect. And so this was the first time that we could get a real read on whether we were going to see conversion issues or dropouts or confused customers just bouncing out of the journey. And this was incredibly valuable. we were able to make significant improvements to the design, and it didn't take very long with such obvious data to rely on. So that's box 2. The next control point was burst testing. So at this point, we were able to get real insight into how production traffic levels would impact our stability. Now, again, we'd already run formal performance testing on all areas of our platform. But using this, and by this I mean at peak times, we were moving our split up to 100%. We were very close to our launch at this point. We felt comfortable that even if we lifted the lid off and were to get out into the market, that no competitors could catch up. But doing this, we were able to see how real traffic patterns would impact our system. We found things in this phase that saved us significant headaches after launch. They wouldn't have been showstoppers, but they would have caused us to scale back, I think. And we were able to fix those long before our launch. So that's box 3. Now, it's worth me also mentioning at this point that there was a final control point, and I didn't list that here because we didn't use it, but it's worth you knowing because, well, it helped me sleep at night. We also had the ability after launch to toggle Experian Boost off completely or to remove key parts of it from our product so that we could retain stability in our core product. So if this had gone really, really badly, we still would have had the ability to retain all of our revenue and all of our customer experience for all of the rest of our core product by simply removing Boost from the product while we fixed it. We didn't use it. I'm glad we didn't. We didn't plan to use it, but it's worth you knowing that that was available to us. Now, I already said that these things came together to be successful, but how successful? Well, they're successful. Everybody loves an upward to the right graph. I haven't labeled the axis deliberately, but I did want you to get a sense of how that launch went. And you can see the little wee rocket, and it may not even be visible, but you can see the tiny little blips as we started consumer testing and staff testing, and we did 1% traffic on the homepage. And as we built our confidence, we were then doing burst testing. And what you can clearly see is that significant launch point. You can see marked on the graph when we launched on TV and across all different media. But what's really interesting here is what you can't see. At no point did we scale back on our plan. We executed that multi-channel launch plan at full throttle, exactly as we'd planned. And the platform's been stable. It's been well received by consumers, and we're really very proud of it, as you can probably tell. So I guess really the punchline, and what I'm really here to share with you, is that these are not a replacement for existing formal testing methodologies. We didn't bypass any of those things. We haven't removed them. We value them hugely. We won't ever remove them. But we were able to capture insight from real consumers on our real product in a way that's just not possible using those types of techniques. And it is that combination of additional controls in production that I feel quite strongly was the key to our success with our launch of Experian Boost in the UK. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to watch us today. Please head over to Slack so we can continue the conversation.